You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Lou Del Pree. You know what I just realized?
What?
I got to BSing with you so much, I forgot to put the graphic up
Oh, yeah.
to come
Well,
into the show. Oh,
we're
well.
so late anyway.
Yeah. It's like my... Never mind. That was
Hey,
a horrible joke. I won't even go there.
right? We did get something new this week though. We're getting our blue check on Twitter. So for everybody out there, we're getting verified. We're gonna have our verified account on Twitter. Nothing's off the table. Same logo that you see up on the show. Same logo on the X account. I'm sorry, X. My old man using no Twitter, but anyway, we'll be getting our blue check mark on X soon and putting our content out there more and commenting more and getting involved more out there. And it's another way for you to engage with the show. So, uh,
So, for idiots like me, what is that? What does the blue check mean?
that means that we're an actual account. We're verified people. We're not robots. Like, so, there's someone at the end of that account, right? There's someone creating that content, someone making those comments. There's actual people there. It's not,
Got it.
it's not a fake account run, one person, the bots, right? What are
Right.
bots, right? They're not necessarily AI responding. Bots are one guy with 15 accounts, that's spamming,
Right.
20 or 30,
So what
lots of
are
different bots.
what are the benefits of getting that then?
So our exposure will reach more people. More people can engage with the show. Again, like we said, we get a priority listing in the feed. When you have a blue check mark, we can post longer. Uh, we can write diatribes. I guess I could post how I talk.
Y-
Finally,
You know, I think we might even be streaming live right now on X.
that'd be awesome if we were. I mean, I'll tell you what.
It
X is the
is.
space. I mean, it's the free speech space now.
Here,
Where people go. I mean,
here
it's
we
getting out of
go.
control around the world. Oh, look at that.
How about that? We're
Yeah,
uh we're we're l- almost not even close to big time now.
yeah,
We're still
yeah.
we're
Right.
still little time. But that's okay. You know
We
what?
have to figure. I have to figure out how to log into Twitter so I can see the comments as we broadcast. That's what I have to figure out. I'll see if I
Oh,
can do it on my
yeah.
phone.
Yeah, you'd have to yeah, you use the Nothing's Off the Table account.
Yep. Oh, there you are. There we're going.
Nice. Nice. So, I thought that's actually really cool that we have that capability now. But I was thinking that next week, um, Halloween is passed, right? For the next week's podcast. So why don't we do a little kind of, I don't know, Halloween theme esque show tonight?
Yeah, I got my decorations out. Trick or
That
treat in the background, if you can see
yeah, it's you got it blurred out.
a little bit.
Yeah. But anyway, I know you really don't like Halloween.
No, not a fan. I've never been a fan. Um, I mean, I'm okay with like dressing up in costumes and all that stuff. But I don't like walking around. I hate handing out the candy. I just hate you know, I hate being there like with all the kids coming having to be interested in what they're wearing, guessing, like entertaining at the door. I just hate all of that. Like I don't want to do any of it.
Hey, Brian Spencer, what's up, buddy? Hey, what are you dressed as there, kid? What, a little turd sandwich? Tell your mom to spend a little money next time, huh? Now get out of here. Yeah, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of either. You know, I don't like walking around and sure as hell hate it when people are constantly coming to the door. I can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. Did you do that on purpose?
No. So but no, I was saying the same thing. Yeah, same thing with you though. I hate the doorbell ring. I hate all that stuff. I can't stand it. It never stops. It never ends.
Yeah, and then the kids are finally at the age now where they want to go do their own thing, and I'm okay with that, you know. Um, but I'm gonna turn off the friggin' lights. Uh, and I'm not giving out crap this year. Oh, Brian's at the he's working at a gas station tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, I've always said he was full of gas.
Nice.
That
Always
guy
good to
over
help
there.
out.
That's right. Um, so sticking with the Halloween theme, I figured, you know what? I don't remember. We've talked about it many, many times, but I don't remember. Are you kind of a believer or not a believer in like the paranormal stuff?
Well, remember I've said before that I believe in it, but I've never seen it. Thank
Got
God,
it.
right? Like I'm one of those people. I believe like some people are more sensitive to it than others. I'm not. Thank God, right? Or I'd have a heart attack. I'd freaking die. But I mean, I've heard too much from people I know are reliable sources
Mhm.
to discount what is going. That type of event.
Got it. The reason I bring that up is because I know that you were on the Constitution, and that ship's got to be haunted. I know you have stories about that.
I
So in
do,
this,
I do. So interestingly enough, one of the stories is I did coordinate the Boy Scouts, and I know I've told this on the show before. And they would come and they would stay the night. Um, and sailors would volunteer and get volunteer hours, right? So if you're a Boy Scout troop, you can call the ship. They still might have the program, right? And you can do the Freedom Tour and then stay overnight.
oh hey Harry, hey Heather.
Constitution, good, good. Glad you believe. I believe too. So anyway, three troops, right? Completely unrelated. Also, the Navy did have, and I've told this too before, right? The Navy did have Ghost Hunters International study the ship, and they did find three spirits that were good and positive. The report's in the CO's desk; it's in his office. The Navy just doesn't advertise it because they don't want it to become a freak show, But they did have Ghost Hunters International come aboard. Anyway, long story longer. Three troops, completely unrelated. They stay overnight, and I usually come in the next day and just how was everything, how'd everything go, check on the sailors, make sure no incidents occurred or anything like that. If you've ever been on the Constitution, the berthing deck, there's where the sailors would sleep. Then there's sort of this middle section where the Marines would sleep, and then there's the officer country, right, where the officers had their little cabins, right, and the Marines slept between the crew and the officers to keep them crew from killing the officers at night. Right, that's true. That's why they slept there, to keep them from sneaking in. So the way we would do it is the scouts would sleep where the sailors would, right? And then the staff would be in between, so nothing inappropriate occurs on the ship, and the adults would be in the officers' mess. So third stateroom on the right. If you happen to take a tour of the ship and the officers' rooms are open, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, right? But it's the third room on the right. Um, the adults who stay in that room three times, I've heard, uh, again, completely unrelated um, tell a tale of right about between midnight and 3 a.m. It gets extremely cold, and they can hear gunfire in the background, like cannon. They say you can see your breath. They say an officer runs in a coat and hat. He rummages through the trunk, and then he looks at the person and says it'll be okay, and then leaves. Every person I say, he talked to you, and they say no. But he indicated, I don't know. That's just they all say, I don't know. I felt like he indicated to me it will be okay. Stay there. He's gonna go fight. He's gonna go finish the fight, and then it stops.
That's crazy.
That's freaky. I thank God that never happened to me.
That's I'm surprised, man, that you've never had some kind of encounter. I really am.
It look it's possible. I mean, but here's the other thing too, right? A lot of times, I'm like, I'm
Because
not wired that way, man. I'm not wired. I'm not wired to, I'll lose it, man. If there's something I can't put hands on, I will lose it. Like if I can't. You know what I mean? Like, I can't put hands on that thing or, at least, like, have some semblance of defense, I mean, the armor of Christ doesn't really fit well on me yet.
right, it's still in the tailor shop.
I cannot don the full armor of Christ yet. We are on the path, though.
Yeah.
We are on the path.
I did get my shoes though.
Yeah, I'm climbing Mount Purgatory as we speak. But, yeah, I have heard, like I said, so I just think, there are just some people are just more tuned to it than others,
Mhm.
and, thank God I'm not, right? Just thank God I'm not because I don't know what I would do. Um, I don't like that,
Hey, Tex. So Well, okay, I do remember you telling that story specifically, but I wanted to point out that these Boy Scout troops, they're coming from all across the country, right?
Yes, they're completely unrelated. That story is not on the internet except here. And it's only here long after I left the Constitution, Andy. I met you after.
Yeah.
So this all happened before this was ever put out on the internet or made public. And I'm almost certain I'm the first person to make that
Huh.
story public, as well as the fact that Ghost Hunters International has been to the Constitution. That's pretty interesting. I always thought it was pretty interesting.
Well, good thing for us, nobody listens.
Yeah, right.
So, anything else from the Constitution?
I mean, there's so much they talk about. I'm now see, you know, you have to separate, right? Like what's true and um what has hallmarks of truth and what doesn't, right?
Mhm.
Stories that, you know, so there is a story that's been around the barracks, right, on the Constitution. Everybody's heard of it. So, you know, how true is it? I don't know.
Right.
You know, when everyone's heard of it. So, you know, it's possible people hear from themselves. So so it is true if you go in the Constitution and you go forward to the bow and you go all the way down into the powder room, right? Which is the kind of special access tour because you really have to get in there and get down, and not everybody can climb down there, not everybody can fit. And once you're down there, you're down there. But you got to get back up. You know what I mean? So you know you have to gotta have a little bit of physical fitness, right? Because it's a ladder. It's not anything. You know, it's not designed for people. So anyway, you go down the powder room and you get up into the front of the ship, and if you supposedly, you know, if you have your if you gee gosh golly have your best girl on your arm when you're down there, and you happen to plant one on her cheek, you know, you and
Or
your best girl Sally,
or butt cheek.
yeah, right. If you happen to plant one on her cheek, you know, you can carve your initials right there on the bow, right? And so there's a ton of initials on the bow, right? A lot of best girls were down there,
I'm
and best
sure.
guys.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure of that.
Yeah, maybe more best guys with best guys.
Right.
It is the Navy. Anyway, so, but no, we'll say. So anyway, long story longer. Oh yeah, I can't wait to see that Trump podcast. So
No
long story
doubt.
longer. But they do say when they're down there and they're doing those naughty things, that there's a small boy, ship's boy, right? Powder monkey. They used to call them, right? And just to go dial back a little bit in naval history, right? You can look all this up, you verified all, check it out with the USS Constitution Museum, if you want. So you used to be able to push your kid into the Navy back in the day, right? If you're a poor family, you could have your kid go serve in the Navy as young as 8. Okay, I
Damn.
don't know that that was true, but they do say 10-year-olds were very common. They say the 8 more on the younger end, but 10, 11, 12 very common,
And
right?
before you go any further, 8-year-olds a very significant number. As a matter of fact, you know what Michael Jackson liked about 28-year-olds, right?
It's 20 of them.
There's 20 of them.
It's 20 of 'em, yeah.
So eight
But
is a very believable number if you're in the Jackson family.
so crazy thing with this P Diddy stuff. Turns out Michael Jackson may have been the only one not touching kids, but that's another story for another half of the show.
That's right.
But but back. We'll get
Thanks
on.
for
We'll talk.
saving me. I completely fucked that joke up horribly so, but thanks for saving me.
No, you didn't. It was a good. It was a good job. I
I got
liked
to
it.
tell on myself a little bit there, but
No, you're good. But it's true though, actually, right? Because who was it? Wasn't Macaulay Culkin and freaking Corey Haim were saying Jackson was throwing those parties to get them away from those guys.
you know
Anyway,
what? I I really I want to talk about this, but we'll table it for
we'll
another
tell you.
time.
I'll finish the story about the little kid, right? So anyway, so
Yeah.
there's a powder monkey. You could sell them into service at the age of 10, and then they would work, and then when they come back from deployment, they would get paid, pay the parents, right? So the parents would make the money for the kid going out to sea work, right? Seems unfair,
See nothing
but
wrong with that at all.
that's what would happen, right? So these kids were short, so they would go down to the powder room, these really small spaces on the ship. Like you have no idea how small these ships are built for construction. So the medical deck is like 4'6". You have to like crouch in there. You know, you
I
can't.
did. I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So you're standing on you were wearing lifts. So so they are these boys. But anyway, so long story longer, again, to go back to that analogy, they say when you're down there doing the naughty things that the boy looks at you and wags his finger that you're not supposed to be
That's
doing. And
funny.
they all and so again, what's true, what's not, right? I tend to believe the officer one coming in because that's unrelated people, completely unrelated and months apart. You
Right.
know, the boy.
That's just a
Maybe.
C story passed down.
Yeah, it's possible. Too many people know it. Too many people tell it. Too much. But again, hiding in plain sight is one of the best places to hide. So,
Kellen says he just wants the P Diddy list because he's got to
oh,
make sure if his name's on it or not.
oh man, you're not gonna get fan room counseling, right? Yeah, you're not gonna get we're not gonna get the P Diddy list, man.
Hell
Come
no,
on,
we
all
still
that
don't
stuff
even
is
have
out.
the
Supposedly
Epstein.
Kamala Harris is on video at one of those parties, supposedly, and that one of the news outlets has it, but they're not releasing the video. There's a guy trying to lawyer up right now because he knows who has it and he knows the names of the people, and as soon as he gets the names, he's gonna let it out. But he's very clear, right? It doesn't mean she did anything wrong. It's
Right,
not video of her committing crimes. It's
right.
not video of her witnessing crimes. It's video of her at a party, right? And it is possible the guy. I'm just throwing cover. I know I'm throwing cover. It is possible it was, I mean, the guy probably threw regular parties too, right? I mean, not every party's a fucking ass raping festival, okay? I mean, not you can't do that every day of the week, right? Sometimes you got to have a bagel. You got to sit down in
Right,
between,
right.
right, and relax. So anyway, but the point being was that supposedly she is in one of the videos, man, and they're saying, so she's got to explain that. I mean, that video should be out, and somebody should be asking her questions. So, what was the party? How was it?
So I 100% agree with you. I actually, in everything you said, I tend to want to give her the benefit of the doubt because she was in California. She was dating Montel Williams at one point, and so
Yeah,
I'm
she's
not
just,
surprised that she's at some of these parties. Big deal,
yes,
you know.
yes.
So uh, again, I'm not saying she did anything wrong, but I'm not surprised she's there. But Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Have you seen the video? There's video out there. I wish I saved it, but I don't know if I did or not. But there is video out there of her at a party with Willie Brown and this this lady asking her if she's Willie's daughter.
Oh no,
It's oh man, it's brutal. It's brutal. Like, are you his daughter? No, no.
China. Where do you think its kids came from?
Well, you heard the rumors there, right? Walls went to China because the child sex laws are more relaxed there. That's why he kept taking high school trips there.
That's what I'm saying. Where do you think he got his kids from?
Yeah, Walls is a weirdo, man. I'll tell you what. I agree with Tucker Carlson when you say, when Tucker Carlson, like, Tucker and I have a similar background, right? Except he's rich and a CIA dad, so I guess we have nothing in common. But I lied. So point is, but we both went to boarding school, right? So it was just funny. I was watching a Tucker interview, and the person he was interviewing said, "Do you know him? Have you?" And he was like, "No, no." He goes, "No, I went to boarding school. I've seen him 1,000 times, so I know. I know exactly who he is. I've seen 1,000 Tim Walls." And as soon as
Yeah.
he said that, I thought back to when I went to boarding school. I did go to boarding school in Pennsylvania, Carson Military. And I thought, oh, you know what? I did know a Tim Walls. I did know a Tim Walls.
uh, Kellen, I don't want to. I really don't want to talk about that shitbag because he's an attention whore, and it's just feeding into what he wants.
Did you hear Trump roast him at the Catholic dinner? The
Oh
Friday he
yeah.
roasted Waltz, man. He's like, Tim Waltz is not here, although I'm sure he'll say he was.
Dude, I
Did
gotta
you?
be honest. I never really listened to Trump before. I thought he was a blowhard. I didn't like a lot of the crap he said. I thought he's very effective in what he did. I just didn't like listening to him. But after I saw everything that they had put him through, I've started paying attention. And not only is he's way smarter than people give him credit for, but he's fucking hilarious. He's
Oh yeah, I think I think they did give him the credit, and then he became Republican.
fair.
Everybody wanted to be with him. Everyone wanted to be near him.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to be at his parties, have a picture taken with him, and then he became Republican.
Yep.
I mean, it's just I mean, we all know, we all see it. I mean, everybody with eyes sees it. I mean, there's a two-tiered justice system. There's a two-tiered, you know, I mean, there's power in the D, right? I mean, there's power in the D.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden, right, just pled guilty in California, okay? In California to the tax charges, all right? Go look at the charges. He pled guilty to them. Go look at them. Go look what they say. Peddling influence. Whose influence? His father's. He pled guilty to that. He pled guilty to peddling influence to the White House. Why is that not on every page of every? Because you know why? Because they say, well, he had to plead guilty. He didn't
It,
want to drag his poor father through the mud. Bullshit. Okay, I don't care. He still pled guilty, and the charge says peddling influence.
that's right. That's huge.
That's huge. He said, yeah,
Which
I did that. He said, yes, I did that. Yes.
where
That's
did you
crazy.
where did you find that at? I'm just curious.
It was all over the news 2 weeks ago. Like 3 weeks ago when he pled guilty. I'll
Yeah.
try to pull it up. Hold on.
Just yeah, just curious because that's already buried so deep. You know, I didn't even hear about it,
Oh, yeah, man.
which is
Pleaded guilty Thursday to all 9 charges in his federal tax case in a surprise move on the day that an agonizing weeks-long trial was supposed to begin. Mark Scasey accepted the guilty plea after a dramatic and convoluted all-day hearing in Los Angeles.
I take that back. I did hear about it, but I didn't know what the charges were. I didn't do a deep dive at all. And you know what? Again, I don't want to waste a lot of energy on that turd. But what are you gonna do? Um,
Right?
I'm still, man, I'm still kind of the belief. So much for the Halloween show. I'm still of the belief that
Right?
regardless of Trump, if he wins or not, well, especially if he wins, he's not gonna make it into the White House, man. That desperation is so foul that you can smell it already.
You
And
think so?
yeah, I mean, well, they had 2 shooters that missed. What's to say they're not gonna try a more of a, mass casualty attack to ensure that they get them?
Well, I told you before, it's easier to kill him than it is to deal with him, right? Because I mean, again, the most ridiculous, depressing thing I ever heard in politics said was, I forget. I guess I wish I could remember who said it, but there are things in this world that aren't subject to the whim of the American voter every 4 years. Okay, we sign these treaties, and governments start acting on them and passing laws and doing things to their citizens, in regard to these treaties, and then all of a sudden the U.S. says, "Ah, we're not doing that anymore." He's like, that's billions for that country. And these countries combined are hundreds of millions of people that are moving in one direction that you just ripped the rug out from under.
Yeah, it
And his
doesn't.
point was, whether it's right or wrong is not. I'm not here to debate whether it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you, let someone rip the rug out from under me, or France pay $3 million to have some bum shoot him in the face. It's easier to just shoot him in the face and deal with the scandal than to rip
Well,
the rug out from these treaties. And that was the guy's point. He was like, it's just easier to shoot.
they should have never went to France. I mean, should have
Well, I
picked.
mean, the point
I'm
the point
kidding.
being
I'm
is,
kidding.
yeah, whatever country, right? These countries, and his thing was the Paris Accord, right? He was like, we're in the Paris Accord, then we're out of the Paris Accord, now we're back in. He goes, whether Trump gets elected or not, watch, you're not going to get out of it.
What
You're in
what did
it. You're
they
not getting out anymore.
what they say in World War II? I got some brand new French rifles here for you. Never been fired and only dropped once.
Right? Right?
So, you know what? Since we're on the politic spectrum, if you will, I I'm not a huge fan of Theo Vaughn. I think he's kind of funny sometimes, but usually I can only take him in small doses. Well, I watched his podcast interview with JD Vance last night.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen it, man, you got to watch. It was great. You JD Vance is completely humanized now. I think the Democrats are in big trouble with the election. I think more people are going to vote for Trump than anyone's admitting at the time, right? I don't trust the polls. I don't believe the polls. The betting odds right now are insane. It's like if you if the betting odds are correct, it's going to be a landslide. But I don't know. But I still hold the opinion that I don't think they're going to let him get into office.
Well, Jamie Raskin was out there talking about the 14th Amendment. You can't be a seditionist, that was put in place for the Civil War people and everything, right? You can't run for government. And then Raskin said what they'll do is they'll invoke the 14th Amendment, and then they'll go to the 12th Amendment. And James Rickards has been talking about this too. He went on Glenn Beck the other day and sort of laid it out. But I've heard Rickards lay this out a couple of times. And if you don't know who Rickards is, he participated in a post analysis. He's a lawyer by trade, education, but he's an economist.
Hmm.
He's written several books on the economy. He knows Yellen. He knows these people. He thinks Yellen's the biggest danger to the world. She's an idiot. But Rickards was talking about um oh, so you had me on Yellen, his thoughts on Yellen, and I lost it. What were we talking about? What were we saying about Rickards? Rickards was talking about what you were just talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember.
Damn it! We did it again.
It's
Oh, the 12th Amendment in 14. Oh, yeah, so
yes.
14th, 12th Amendment, right? So Raskin and them. So Rickards said it's happened 3 times. He said it's actually happened 3 times. It happened with Andrew Jackson, it happened with some other people, right? He said, so it's not unprecedented. It's not that it has never been done. He said,
Right.
and that's why Raskin's out there saying it, because when they do it, there's plenty of precedent for it. He said, and their side has heard this already, right? So they're aware of it. He said, and Trump is aware of it too. He talks to Trump. He said Trump and his team, they're aware of it too. And he said, so what has to happen is basically you need Republicans not to enter the House on certification day. He said, so if they invoke the 14th Amendment because they control the Senate and they refuse to certify the votes because he's an insurrectionist. He goes, and remember, right? And everybody's like, well, that's not what he's accused of. And he said, well, that's not what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court did not say that. The Supreme Court said, we do not determine whether he's an insurrectionist. You do that. He said, so that's why Raskin's out there saying these things, because it will be the Senate who will determine that he's not 14th Amendment, right? That he's not eligible. So if you lose the Senate, that's what Rickards is talking about. He said what they'll do is they'll invoke that, then they'll go to the 12th Amendment. He said, and so what the Republicans have to do is they have to stay out of the House so that there is no quorum. They have to not go in. He said, because if they're able to have a quorum, then the House, well, it's not the Senate, I'm sorry, it'll be the House. He said, then the House will award the presidency to the person who has the next highest electoral college count, which is Kamala Harris. She's the only one. She's the only one. He said, so if Republicans go into the House chamber on that day, Kamala Harris will be president. If they stay outside, it goes to JD Vance.
Interesting.
He said,
Very
so,
interesting.
yeah, he said, so if they stay outside, if the Republicans stay outside and do not allow the House to have a quorum, it will go to JD Vance.
So I wonder if this is the October surprise that everyone's talking about, but won't actually be a surprise until November after the election has been called.
I don't think so. I think they tried to do the dead funeral, the dead girl funeral.
Oh yeah, that flopped fantastically,
Yeah,
didn't
because
it?
people don't care. People are like, yeah, bake it into the cake, man. He says wild stuff I don't like, and I wish he would say it better, but whatever. I know what he did. I mean, I think Ben Shapiro said it best in his show. Are you asking me, Donald Trump? So Donald Trump, said a dumb thing about Hitler generals, right? First of all, I don't even know if it's true or not. I don't believe Millie at all, right? But okay, let's say he did. Does he say dumb things? Yeah, absolutely. But I think like Ben Shapiro said, like, but do you expect me to believe that he is waiting to be elected to round up 6 million more Jews? Is that what you're asking me to believe? Is that what, like, are you like the guy who prayed at this, temple with this famous rabbi? Like the guy who moved the capital to Jerusalem? Like, are you asking me to believe that he's ready to round up 6 million? Is that what you're asking? Now, is it stupid to say you wish you had generals that were loyal like Hitler's? Yeah, very dumb. But are you asking me? Like, no, this is ridiculous.
So here's my this is why I don't believe a damn thing that comes out of their mouths, because I don't know. I wasn't there in the room, obviously, but I could almost guarantee you that it was 1,000% taken out of context just to have a gotcha moment. I'm sure it wasn't anywhere close to what he said. I'm sure he did mention Hitler and generals, uh, and I'm sure it was a dumb comment, but I'm sure that it was taken completely out of context just for a gotcha moment.
Of course,
But
of
anyway,
course.
Kellen says, "Are you saying that someone who couldn't pull one delegate in 2020 could possibly win on some weird crap like that?" Abso-freaking-lutely. They're
It,
pulling out all the
it,
stops,
it's
man.
well, so here's and this is what Rickards was talking about. It's happened 3 times already. It's
Right.
already happened 3 times in our presidency, and he named all three, and Jackson was one of them. Where you remember how you elect kind of everybody, and the second person with the electoral was the vice president, right? That's how it used to be, the
Back
second
then.
highest total,
Yeah. Right.
right? But you had people with 3, 4, 5, vote counts, and that's it's happened 3 times. I mean, yeah, you hear people say in today's age, people go nuts and flip out. Really? Will they? I don't know. I thought they would have went nuts 2 weeks to flatten the curve. But you know what? No one did. And and
Right.
and in all honesty, and I have to admit this, man, I took the shot too because I wanted my pension. I
I hear
mean,
you.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, all these people, Civil War and all that. Yeah, yeah, these people got jobs too, man. Like so I don't know who's gonna stand up, man. I know this. I didn't think everyone would sit. I was waiting for the people to stand up so I could stand up with them, right? And maybe that
Mhm.
was the problem. Maybe I should have stood up and seen if anybody stood up with me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then we're all sitting here saying next time, next time, next time. Really?
But I I see where you're going, but I've also seen it when people get fed up and enough's enough. Then it's then it's ugly. And I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what it's gonna take to get to that point. I hope it doesn't ever. But I don't know, man.
Yeah. Hey, so I see what you're talking about, Kelly. You're talking about like the odds and everything. They're not talking odd. They're talking Trump winning. Trump wins, and they just say you're ineligible. You're
Right.
ineligible to receive these electoral votes because you participated in an insurrection according to the 14th Amendment. So if they're able to do that in the House, right? Because what Rickards was saying was the Supreme Court told Congress, you call him insurrectionist, and then you can do these things. You don't leave it to us. He said that was the decision. The decision was not Trump is not an insurrect. It was you determine that. We do not. And that's
But
why everything was thrown out.
it would eventually go back to the Supreme Court.
I don't think so because they said because it would have to because it becomes procedural at that point. It's already the procedure's already been laid out. There's nothing to litigate. What do you
Hmm.
litigate? If they followed procedure,
But where's the proof that he was an insurrectionist? There
it does
wasn't even an insurrection.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If they vote that way, do you see what I'm saying? Like
No,
it
I
doesn't
see
matter.
what you're saying.
Yeah, if they vote that way, right? If they vote that way and they decide to remove it from him, and then we have to go through all that nonsense, right? My thing is yeah, I do believe it would split the country. I don't believe there'd be action on it though. I believe there'd be fighting for like a month. I believe, like riots for a month. But who's gonna riot? We got
Yeah,
jobs,
right.
man. We got places to go. We got kids. I mean,
Right?
you know what I mean? Who's gonna
It's I could see it if I don't know, man. If it does happen in the left, they just start getting like too cocky, and going out. And if there's assaults that start happening, well, that's when it's going to escalate.
I think they're panicked, man. I think they're in trouble. They know it. Um, they're not acting like they're winning.
Now,
They're on all these TV shows. They're doing all these interviews. She's getting chewed up on all that stuff. I mean, it's interesting. I'll tell you what though. You talk about North Korean. We were jumping around with Kellen here in the chat talking about the North Korean troops. I don't know if you saw that, Andy, but
yeah.
it's interesting. There are North Korean troops going there. So Rickards has a very interesting comment on Ukraine and Russia. And he's saying we're not hearing the truth there.
Oh,
That
guaranteed.
Ukraine is losing and that Russia is actually doing very well. And they fight war differently and for them it's going okay. They're very long, drawn out, methodical type, war. Like yeah, they're getting attacked and they're getting, shit gets broken in war. But Rickards, who just wrote a book on the supply chain and is writing another book, pointed out that Russia is outproducing every NATO country in munitions and large scale missiles right now. He said every NATO country combined, Russia is out producing them on 5.53 shells. He named it all. He said
Wow.
all of it. He said, so you can put whatever money you want into Ukraine. He said, there's nothing to buy.
It's funny. You're right. They do have a different outlook on warfare. They really don't care how many of their own people that get killed.
Well, you're right. You're right in one way, except for one thing that everybody's nervous about. Have you heard about the conscripts? Have
No.
you heard any talk about conscripts? Okay, so he had to enlist conscripts. And in Russia, that is a very, very political, tenuous thing to do, right? The Russians do not like the draft. Okay. So he did have to activate that. And
Hmm.
what he did was he backfilled fighter positions, right? So not a lot of them are not in combat. But these Ukraine strikes now are coming into Russian territory. And he is having to send some of the conscripts. Well, when the conscripts start dying, which has not happened yet in large numbers, but if
Mm,
that starts happening in large numbers, they said that's when he'll think tactical nuke. That's
mm.
why he's talking nuclear weapons. He's the only one talking it, but he's talking it because if his conscripts start dying, he knows he'll start losing support and he'll have to do that. He'll have to just end it.
And he
But
will.
what Rickards did say was when Trump gets elected, he absolutely will win the war. He absolutely will end the war. And what he said is here's how he ends the war. He picks up the phone, he tells Vladimir Putin that our 30-year policy of NATO expansion was wrong. We're sorry about that. We're not going to put the missiles on your border. Done. Done. The war's over. He said the reason they went into Ukraine is because we flew Kamala Harris over there to tell him we're going to bring Ukraine into NATO, which means we're going to put missiles on his border. He's like, would we tolerate that in Mexico? Would we tolerate them putting missiles in Mexico?
Yeah.
Hell no. Right now, I'm not being a Putin apologist.
No.
I'm just saying though, if we understand, how things started, and when Trump says I will end this war before I take office, if you want to know how, that is how he will do it. Is in some way, shape, form, or fashion, he will guarantee Putin that we will not put missiles on his border, and then he will leave and let Ukraine be Ukraine.
Yeah, he's got
Right?
no. Yeah, exactly.
Happen is he's going to say we won't put missiles on your border. But but that doesn't make Trump a Putin lover. It doesn't make him a Putin apologist.
No. Do you remember? You may or may not. Several months ago, I predicted that one of these adversaries will start making a move in October, November timeframe because they know that the leadership or lack thereof in our country is extremely weak. And if Trump wins, they're out of time. So they've got to do something. Now we got North Koreans going to where? Russia?
Yeah, but some of them are defecting and they're
Well,
getting trained right now and they'll be deployed.
right.
Right now they're just entering in training.
So we've never really seen anything like that from North Korea.
No, I mean, but these are the coalitions. These are the BRICS. That's the other thing Rickards was warning about. I'll tell you, you guys check out Rickards. Rickards was warning about the BRICS. He said Putin couldn't go last year because it was in Australia. He said, and there's an international arrest warrant for him, so he couldn't go. He
Hmm.
said, but this year it's in Russia, and they expect to vote in 4 new nations. He
Mhm.
said, you can create a currency. Anyone can create a currency. Rickards is funny, man. He's like, I can create the Rickard. He's like, and sell it to you for 40,000 American dollars. He goes, but what are you going to do with the Rickard? He
Right.
goes, right? There's no reason for you to buy it because nobody else takes the Rickard.
Exactly.
He's like, but they got 5 people right now that are looking at taking rupees. He goes, and if they add 5 more, he said, you're not going to collapse the dollar overnight. He goes, but that's going to cause a shake.
Sure enough.
That can cause a ripple. He said, if you get countries to start trading on currency that's not the dollar, he said, and that screws a lot of our plans because we bank on that. That's how we budget, based off the fact that that's
We'll just print more.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, Kellen said that the White House issued a warning today to North Korea. But that's my whole point, man. We're a laughing stock on the world stage right now.
And North
Ev-
Korea doesn't care. What are you gonna do to
yeah,
I mean, what more can you do to them?
take their dogs away; they can't eat them.
Yeah, they can't you can't do anything to North Korea. They're do I'll tell you, in my this is just my opinion. So, well, here, I'll tell you more than my opinion. First of all, North Korea can only attack in the winter. Okay, they can't do anything in the summer. They can't do anything in the summer. So, right now we're entering into the phase where they can attack. Okay, there'll be a period of a few months, January, February, March, right, or December ish, right, December, January, February, March. This kind of 4 or 5 month window that they can attack in. After that, they can't do shit. They're a paper tiger. Now you say, why is that, Lewis? Well, interestingly enough, it's not classified information, but if you were to Google map the DMZ, you'd notice that there were farm fields and rice fields everywhere. So if they run the border, their tanks will sink. Okay. They'll be stuck in the mud, right? They can't do anything. They'll have to stay on the road. And if they stay on the road, well, then an A-10 can just have a Christmas run, right? And just right down, they're all in a line.
Yep.
In the winter, when it's frozen, they can run the entire border and we can't do shit, right? Because the ground's frozen, the tanks can move now. Okay. So that's number one. They cannot anytime you ever hear North Korea saber rattling, or if you hear a politician talking about North Korean saber rattling in the summertime, that's money. They want money. Tell them this, no, no. Ask them how. Ask them how. Show me on a map how. How can
Right.
they attack right now? They won't know because they don't know. Right? A lot of people talk out their ass. I think I'll tell you this. Here's another thing I'll tell you too. Now we're entering into my opinion. Okay. There are battle plans, by the way, to deal with Korea. And it's all winter. So they used to be on the internet. That's the funny thing. When the internet first came out, they were on the internet. I know you think I'm
Oops.
saying right, but that's how we studied them. We pulled them up and we read them, for our unit deployment because they were on the internet. And then they were like, "Holy
Oops.
shit, there's classified stuff on the internet." Um, but anyway, the funny thing is, so this is my opinion about North Korea. I think North Korea is going to be the biggest tragedy of our lifetime, right? I mean, the fact that we have not gone in there, right? We've gone into all these other places and fucked all these other places up, but the fact that we have not gone in there, put our foot down and said, "You people are going to eat," okay? This is ridiculous. This is absurd. All right, the fact that we haven't done that, I think, is going to be our moral bankruptcy, for my generation, right? I mean, I really, that place is, I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible what's going on there. And we'll fuck up Iraq for who knows what. Slant drilling in Kuwait, who cares? Who cares if they were drilling in Kuwait? Okay, probably Kuwaitis, I get it, but that's your own problem.
Right.
You got to deal with slant drilling yourself, okay? Um, and if you want to talk about like what the first Gulf War was about, you got there's probably many things that drive a nation to war, but one of the big items that was happening that they don't talk often about was slant drilling. There were some different things occurring. Kuwait was slant drilling into Iraq, and Iraq was like, "What the fuck?" Plus some other stuff was going on. I'm not justifying Iraq's bombing Kuwait. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that go on in this world.
Oh, sure.
You know, um, but yeah, yeah. That's pretty much it.
It's I don't know, man. I just I hope I'm wrong. This is not one of them times where I want to say, see, I told you." I hope I'm
Yeah.
wrong. I hope that nothing happens. That I don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith, I guess, right now. Um, that's a strong warning, Ray. Don't. Actually, Biden was probably talking about putting Boudreaux's butt paste on his butt after he shit himself the 100th time. Don't.
Ugh, he says that all the time, and they always do.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Strong warning. Strong warning. Uh,
I think Taiwan's an issue. I think, I think like like you're saying, Kellen, that would, now there's interesting, Andy. You talk about like an incident. I think Taiwan would be one. I mean, they're moving over there. Japan just had to launch planes
mhm.
to keep going on. I don't know who won. Japan's got an election for a new prime minister too because their prime minister is resigning, and they have some pretty interesting candidates. And there's actually an opportunity for a really young guy to get elected. Um, who's very pro marijuana. I don't know if you know their laws. They're like automatic 5 years.
Right. No, wow, that's cool. Um, I'm glad you said Japan because we've got I don't know, about 15 minutes left in the show, and since it's a Halloween themed show, let me steer us back there real quick. Um, Japan. Your wife's Japanese, and the Japanese culture, I think, is a lot like the Filipino culture with regards to lots of superstitions. So, does your wife have any like superstitions?
She did, but I think she shook them when we got married, right? Because there was a really cool thing in a Japanese house, right? There's always like a little shrine. It can be up in a corner, it can be in a cabinet. It depends on how fancy the house is and how they wanted it. It's just a place for all the dead, right? To pay respect to all the dead. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife's parents' house had a small one, maybe this big, right? And it's like up in a corner. Uh, so you have to kind of look for them. But if you go into a traditional Japanese house in Japan, you'll see it. Unless like my wife's grandparents, very well to do. Theirs was like this big closet thing, right?
Hmm.
Like it was really big. So that, but that was hidden, right? Like you had to find that. Go look for that. But yeah, it was for all the spirits that live in the house, right? When your family spirits come to visit you, that's where they can go to rest and relax, right? So there's like a little scene there, if you will, so they
Yeah.
can rest. And then there's always rice, right? And I asked,
Incense.
yeah, I asked my wife, like, why don't we do that? And she's like, you have to change the rice every. Who gonna make the rice? You gonna make the like you gotta, like like so, like, as we moved to America, and talked about these things, she's like, who's gonna maintain it? In those houses, everybody's raised in the same tradition. Everybody helps. Anyway, I guess the point being is rather than having a nice display that I thought would be very pretty in my house, my wife's belief in that practice told her it's better to not do it. We won't be respectful.
That
We
makes
won't
sense.
we won't do it right.
Now, I know they have the haunted forest in Japan.
No, the
Um,
suicide forest.
Suicide forest, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I think but it's supposed to be haunted, right?
But yeah, I mean, people commit suicide in there left and right.
I never made it there, but I guess I guess I'm having trouble trying to form the question I want to ask. So, uh, fuck it, I just ain't gonna ask it.
Well, I'll tell you what, talk about weird stuff and things you don't really experience in America that you experience in some of the more older cultures, right? I don't want to say ancient, but older cultures. We were driving in Japan one time. We were passing these tall grasses of I knew a guy who swam in Monkey Island. These tall fields of grass, and it was way out in the country, maybe around Chiba.
Hmm.
And I was asking my wife what they are, and she's like, "Well, stop," because there's signs, right, like historical signs. So we stop at one. We just pull over, and
Oh, I thought
she's
she was telling you stop asking.
no, no, right. So she starts reading it, and she goes, "Oh, oh, okay, okay." You know, she gets excited when she learns of things and sees them.
Mhm.
And then because then there's a lot of things I've learned. Like I'll tell her something I learned in America about Japan, and she'll act like she's never heard of that before in her life. Like I don't even know what that is, and like why would you even bring that up? You know what I mean? Like immediate belittling. Like right? Like I heard Japanese people write in kanji, right? That's ridiculous. Who would do that? That's Chinese garbage. We use katakana. Who said that? Right? Like, is that what they told you? Is that what you read in your book? Is that what you saw in anime? Is that what they do in Gundam? She'd be saying something like that. She'd be making fun of me, right? Like
I can
anything that.
totally see her saying that
Oh yeah,
too.
is that your Gundam? Is that what they say in Gundam? They'll say something. They tell me all the time. Don't practice words you learn in Japanese from anime because it's not right. It's made up. Um, and the funny story how that came about was I kept hearing the word for boss, right? And and I was talking about her dad to some guy, and I was like, "Yeah, it's my boss." And I guess I was using the mafia boss name.
Oh shit! Whoops.
She's like, "You're so rude." You know? She's like, "It's not." She's like, "It's not." They know. They know what you mean. They know you're an idiot. She's like, "But that's what you're doing. You're showing you're an idiot. Like, just don't say anything. Like, just don't, why don't you
Wow.
just say my dad? Why do you have to say? Why do you have to try to impress people with your lack of knowledge?" Like,
Damn.
anyway. So Oyabun does not mean boss, just so you know. But yeah, I forget where I was going with that.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway,
Yeah. So, how about them Bears? So,
oh, the field. So we pulled
the
over.
field.
Now I remember. This is,
Okay.
by
Yeah.
the way, if any of you are new to the show, this is how this goes. We forget exactly where we were, and then it
Yep.
comes right back. But so we're driving to the field, and the feelings you don't get in America. So tall grass. We pull over. She reads the sign. The sign says that there used to be two towns here, two villages here, right? 600 years ago. I mean, you can't fathom stuff like that,
Right.
right? You're like, you know, or I'm sorry, it wasn't like 600. It was like, I think it was 300 years ago, right? It wasn't because it was right before the Wild West. That's what I remembered. It was right
Mm.
before our Wild West, so right around the 1700s and stuff.
Was that the was that the Edo period or that was
It could be Meiji, or well, I forget when Meiji
I
started.
forget
Meiji was the
too.
one who opened it up. Emperor Meiji opened it up to the foreigners because he just, he was like,
Well, it had to be right around that time.
yeah.
Pretty close.
I know it was before Kondo and those guys, like the Shinsegumi. The Shinsegumi was the last samurai corps, like so that actually existed. And like those guys, Kondo and those guys were running wild all over the country. I mean, the stories of, like we had the Wild West with gunfighting. We're doing it with guns. They're doing it with swords.
Oh
Same
yeah.
exact shit's going on. You know, roving gangs, police trying to keep it together. Um, wild codes. You know what I mean? Like you have the code of the West where you're gonna stand against each other. You know what I mean? They've got separate. Like, it's
Bushido.
um, yeah. There was a story of these two guys. This lieutenant wrote in his diary. Right? He's riding, and these two samurai come riding towards him, and he's thinking, "Oh shit, I'm about to get like, I'm wearing my colors here. I'm about to get my head chopped off. These two guys are riding at me hard, right? Like they're riding at him. So he's like, oh, right. And he said, then all of a sudden they jump off, like kill themselves. He's like, what the hell?
What?
Yeah, it's like
Damn.
so he gets off his horse and he deconstructs it a little bit, and what he figures out is that they were running away from a battle and must have thought he was coming to get them because he was an officer, right?
Oh,
So to save themselves the shame, they killed themselves.
interesting.
He's like, but it was just wild like that, man. Like, just the times are so wild.
Yeah.
Um, so this guy here, he is thinking he's gonna die, and these two dudes because anyway, two villages. The grass is here, right, to dial it back. And basically, what the sign was saying is that when samurai clans would want to fight for control of towns, they didn't want to fight inside the town because it would wreck it. So they would meet, and here is one of the places they would meet.
Oh wow.
And I'll tell you, man, when you talk about um, ghosts and presences and things, there's only one other place I felt this way, and it's Gettysburg. But I
Huh.
stood on that grass, because you can walk in that field. You
Right.
walk in that field and you could just feel, man, people got murked here, man.
Well,
Dudes
see,
got slashed up.
I, I'm a firm believer in energy. I mean, it's we've proven it, right? And if you study physics and the law of thermodynamics, it just doesn't go away, right? You can't destroy it. It's got to change form somehow. So I believe that energy could be trapped there. And I'm not saying they're ghosts and they're coming out and saying boo, but it's definitely energy, man. And you can
So let me
feel
give
that
you a
stuff.
plug. Yeah, you're right, Andy. Let me give you a plug here. A shameless plug. If you check out the podcast Haunted Cosmos, okay, and I just started checking it out last year. They talk about this stuff and where it is in the Bible, right? And it's interesting. I'm not a big scholar of the Bible. I'm not a big religious person, right? Which is, but it's very interesting to me. So I love, talking to people who know about it, more than I do. I am a
Mhm.
believer, but I'm just not. I couldn't quote you past. I just can't quote you past.
Yeah, same here.
So long story longer. Again, Haunted Cosmos has a great conversation about these types of things, and they have it from a biblical worldview. But they did talk about this, right? Haunted spaces, um, and where it is in the Bible, and they say in Leviticus it does talk about battles of such great a nature that the land drunk the blood and nothing would grow.
Hmm.
Nothing would come from that. And so the Bible does talk of, you know, the land taking on the traits of, the aggression, conscience of the people around it. Like, so they anyway, they have an interesting go through of that, like so you have, we have all of our science podcasts that talk a lot about that stuff, and then you have podcasts that deal with paranormal. Well, here's a podcast that deals with paranormal and how it relates to the Bible. Right? It's very funny. They'll tell you if it's in there, if it's not in there, how it might be in there. You know, it's a good
That's
podcast.
interesting. It's real.
It's
I
called
wrote it
Haunted
down.
Cosmos.
I wrote it down so
Mhm.
I can look it up. Billy Bruce, next time take the Gettysburg Ghost Tour.
It's great.
I think next year I'm gonna do that.
Yes, I'll go with you. It's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it after camp.
But Billy, I mean, you can feel it. You can when you're in Gettysburg. What I remember from Gettysburg when I was in high school is you feel it. Dudes were here. Dudes were here doing it. They were getting it on, man. And it was not some nonsense. It was not some over the head. It was not no, they were there, man. They were looking at each other,
Yeah,
like
warfare
charging
back
each other.
then. Warfare back then was ridiculous.
They're charging each other. They're taking breaks and collecting dead. Right? So I was just shooting at you, Andy, and now here we are. Oh, does that arm belong to you? Oh, hey, that's my guy's arm. I'll take that arm.
Yeah,
I'm gonna fuck you up in about 3 hours. You know that, right?
right.
I'll put one right in your dome in about 3 hours.
You
But
know there had to be some shit talking,
oh my god, man, we can't even imagine that type of stuff. We can't even imagine that type of stuff. You know,
Mm-mm.
and then we sit here and talk about hard men.
Right?
Yeah, it's warfare is crazy. I when I tell the story of dueling in the Navy and the death of Stephen Decatur, I talk about how he's shot right with a musket ball and says, "I never knew man could know such pain." He's shot in the hip, right? He's not shot with a round that produces cavitation. He's shot with a ball, okay, that just slaps so hard it tears.
Yeah,
It doesn't pierce. Okay, bullets pierce. This
it's
tears and
it's
shatters.
there's nothing worse than a low velocity, high mass round.
It's a ball. It's a solid steel ball that's just
Yeah,
gonna smack you so hard it splits your skin off the inside bones.
yeah, I can't even imagine, dude.
Yeah, this guy's shot like that, And I mean, and like you said, low velocity. I mean, they're not shooting you from 50 feet away. They're looking at you.
Right?
Okay, I'm seeing how angry and surprised you. I mean, well, now, I mean, you never forget those dudes when when you cap one and the surprise they have, like, yeah, buddy. But I mean, we both be surprised, like, I
Right?
can't believe I did that,
Right?
and But anyway, but yeah, I mean, that look, they get that look, like, yeah, well, I trained, man. I'm sorry.
Just had sick thought, man.
Put on my man dress and run around with a belt.
Be like, fuck. What's the matter? Man, I hit him fucking dead between the eyes. Well, that's a good thing. No, I was aiming for his left fucking eye.
Yeah.
That's
It
when
was
you
I
know
was
you're
talking to a
fucked up.
dude I was talking to a dude about a transitioning. I was like, "You ever transition?" And he was like, "For execution purposes." I was like, "Man, that's messed up." He's like, "Well, let me clarify." He said, I did have a guy grab my rifle one time." He said, "So I
Oh,
transitioned."
oh, wow.
He said, "But I didn't have to." He said, "I was just so mad."
Fair, fair enough. Um,
Alright.
well,
Well, it's
that time.
I was gonna say it's that time. And then, hey guys, we are looking at. We did discuss today, too. We're looking forward to, and if you don't mind, Andy, I'll announce it because I'll have it ready
Oh,
for next week. Um, but we did discuss before the program, before we get into vets, it's helping vets.
pinups.
Anyway, before we get into our favorite charity pinups for vets, um, but that Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, we have to get the two together. Maybe get pinups and
Right.
umpire gear or something. But
As long as it's not
I
the umpires in pinup gear.
that yeah, it can't be. But we got some umpires. Yeah,
Big
yeah,
Daddy
man. Come on.
Cadillac.
All right. Um, but But anyway, we're talking about news section, right? So just so you guys know, so I pay for a lot of like the news subscriptions and everything. Um, and we talk about it once a week, right? So to add a little bit more structure to the show, there was one thing that we did every week, and that was try to promote a veteran charity helping veterans. But here's the other thing we're gonna do every week. We're gonna start a new segment starting next week. And we'll play around with it. Get it right for you. But I'm going to give you a wrap sort of the subscriptions I pay for, and tell you where you can find, if there were any good interviews, who had the interview and where it was. I pay for it so you don't have to, and we're going to call it the wrap, and I'll kind of give you a week wrap. 5 to 10 minutes of who talked to who during the week, and if it was worth listening to or not, I'll let you know. And you can go hear the stuff that I hear for yourself for free. I am a nerd. If you didn't know, I consume about 4 hours of news a night, straight across podcasts, multiple. Um, I have a little. I'm not gonna give you my secrets away. You'll figure it out. But I have an order to how I listen to them, because in that order, I found I retain it better. Um, because some of them cover each other.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
But I will give you one podcast that's brand new that I listened to that I found that was really good. I love it, and I will talk about it more here, and I'll bring it to you. But it's called the President's Daily Briefing. It's by Mike Baker.
Oh,
He's a
yeah, I
former
know
CIA
Mike Baker.
agent.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know him, but I know of
you've
him.
heard of him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We've all heard of him. He's been on a lot of shows. He's been around, but he started doing the President's Daily Brief now, and he does a morning and an afternoon edition. I listen to both. I mean, um, I'd say if you caught the afternoon edition, you pretty much caught the morning. But
He's a pretty
they're
wise individual.
they're 9 to 10 minutes long. They're not very long. They're around the world. Quick information, great information, and like I said, it's a fast hit. And you're out the door with the world's with what's going on in the world.
Notice
Um,
I said wise. I chose
yeah.
that word for a particular reason
Oh yeah.
because he's worldly.
Oh,
He's
he's been around since on the Friday edition of the show is an hour-long edition, and it's great. He brings in guests, interviews guys he's operated with from the 80s, and again, just they did a deep dive into Iran last week, the attacks and everything, just with one of the admirals, and
hmm.
it's just
I,
very interesting. Like
I
that's
need to
just the
go back
president's
and
PDB. They call it the PDB, President's
PDB.
Daily Brief. It's great. Mike Baker comes out daily, twice a day. Like I said, really like it, really enjoy it. I'd encourage you to listen to it. Gives you a lot. Yep. Hey,
All
all
right,
right,
Billy,
fellas.
we're wrapping up, buddy.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. Anyway, we'll add the wrap, and I'll tell you some of the good stuff that happened during the week and where you can find it. So if you missed something, don't worry about it. Hopefully, I'll catch it for you on Friday.
That'll be fun. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in and participating in the chat. And as cliche and as horrible as it is, I have to say it anyway. I'm going to steal Lou's thunder here. Comment, like, subscribe. Uh, it's funny as it is, YouTube, they have their algorithm, so hoo-
Yeah, they
hook a,
do.
hook a couple brothers up and stuff. But anyway, Lou, always a pleasure, my friend. You ready to
Andy,
get out of here?
always.
All right, peace.
You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table with Andy and Lou, an Admiral Media production podcast.